Hey, I'm Luke, and today I'm going to tell you how I went from being an innocent, pretty innocuous incel to being an incel that was really ingrained and pretty insidious, to coming out the other side, going through all the red pill stuff, and being where I'm at now, which is a place where I feel more secure in myself than ever. Still got work to do, obviously, still got a lot of shit to work through, but I'm more self secure and confident than I've ever been, and I'm in multiple polyamorous relationships which are ethical, kind, loving, and sexually fulfilling. And I just don't feel nearly as terrible in myself anymore and insecure and dependent on the validation of women to make me feel good in myself. So my journey started when my father finished inside my mother, and I'm joking. So it started really in university, first year of uni. Um, I had established this mindset that intimacy, even kissing, romance, and definitely not sex, they weren't for me, and definitely sex, they weren't for me. They were just like other people and in porn. They don't exist in my reality. Um, and I used to have like 3 to 4 hour long marathon wanks. Yeah, and I'd look forward to having them every now and again because it was incredibly stimulating and I could vicariously get off or have sex through these beautiful people on the screen. And then I found a few books. I found How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I found Models by Mark Manson. I found No More Mr. Nice Guy by I can't remember whom, something Glover, I think. And The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I began meditating every day and journaling every day, and I built up a sense of inner confidence, a tiny, tiny modicum of inner confidence. And I asked a girl out on a date, and she said yes. And then on the day we had the date, or were having the date, she said no. I had my first kiss, which was sober, which I pushed myself for, and was very surprised that my desire was in some way reciprocated. I then had another date, and this time it went through. It was actioned. It was an actual date that happened, and it turned into a year-long relationship. I lost my virginity on the second date, and was very surprised when she wanted to see me again. And she was actually surprised that I wanted to see her again, which was bewildering to me because this beautiful young woman was interested in me. For the first time, I felt that, and it went on to be a relationship, which was nice. Although my mind was quite fucked because I'd found the red pill. After that relationship, which lasted a year, I had 4 years, I'd say, of a dry spell, which was pretty dark. I dove heavily into the red pill ideology, I'll call it, and picked up philosophy, specifically Stoicism, more specifically Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And I took that too literally and developed a lot of self hatred because my actions were not in accordance with my values. I also developed bulimia and had different suicidal thoughts which persisted. I had many nights where I would cry myself to sleep in a fetal position because I felt so lonely and vulgar. So, quite a dark time, those 4 years. But dark nights of the soul eventually end, and I came out the other side. And now I am where I'm at. And I have a lot more work to do, but there's a lot of beauty to be found in the relationships I have and the connections I have had with other people this past year specifically. So we have paradigm of intimacy is absolutely not for me. I'm unworthy of even a kiss. To a year-long relationship, in which I was quite head fucked because I was thinking like, oh, maybe I am interesting sexually and I can have so much more fun than just this one person in this relationship. To I'm free, but then there are 4 years of nothing, and I'm very, very lonely, and this is very painful. And I discovered the red pill, and discovered a lot of developed a lot of self hatred maybe I did also discover that self-hatred that was already there. And I somehow grew out. I somehow grew out of the red pill, or grew through the red pill ideology. And by that, I'm specifically referring to a lot of the toxic posts which are on Reddit and the book The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi, and probably other books as well, such as the Book of Puck or Pook and whatever else I read. Mainly Reddit posts. And then I developed a sense of innerness, a sense of myself, a sense of authenticity, which is persisting and developing to this day and onward. Um, those 4 years were dark, in that I had a little date or dating period with a girl in my final year of university. I had a lot of frustration in Australia during COVID, um, where I asked multiple girls out. I told one girl explicitly that I'd like to have casual sex with her. I was laughed at. She thought I was joking. I emphasise that I'm not joking. I was laughed at. And I came out the other side. I lived in a commune. I had a lot of time for contemplation, reflection, meditation. And I moved to Bristol late last year, well, mid last year, just under a year ago. And I had a lovely relationship, which was monogamous, which ended in the winter. And now, and since then, I developed and I'm developing multiple polyamorous relationships. So the first lesson I can say I learned from this is about detachment and detaching myself from an outcome, but still acting as if like I really want that outcome to happen will actually improve the chances of that outcome happening. So if I went on a date and I really wanted it to lead to sex, if I was attached to that outcome, it's very unlikely that sex would happen. But if I removed myself from that outcome and I just went on the date out of curiosity and the date was an end in itself, then the chance of sex is more likely. The second lesson would be about impermanence. Now, all of these lessons are like really huge lifelong lessons, but these are glimpses I've had of them and they've felt very, very real. So the second lesson is about impermanence. And I can say this because I've been on the other side of these dark nights of the soul, and I can reflect back and see that they don't last forever. And I can also look back on the nice, lovely times I've had and see that they don't last forever. And because of where I am now, and there's a sense of inner confidence or some sense of inner peace, I can be okay with that sense of impermanence. And I can welcome, I'm more likely, I'm more able to welcome new experiences, good or bad, or positive or negative, or painful or joyous, and feel more okay with experiencing them while they exist, and then feeling more able to let go of them when it's time for them to pass. The third lesson is about clear and honest communication. Now, this is one of the biggest changes that I made in my mode of being, in my way of being throughout these years. So instead of being gamey or pick-uppy, I learned to communicate in a more authentic and what I'd say masculine way. A way that's more explicit and just honest and clear. And I call it masculine because it's about, I know what I want, I'm going to communicate that and try to get it in as honest and not subtle or ulterior way as possible. And this made my life so much easier, even though it's very hard to begin with being more honest. It made it so much more easier, so much more easy, and there were less hurdles to jump over. Fourth is about authentic and sincere action. Now, the difference between this lesson, and the last one is that this is more about action and also inaction or non-action, which is a decision in itself. So if somebody asks me to do something, I'm more able now to check in with myself, check if that's okay with me, and if not, I can say no. So instead of just being such a people pleaser and saying yes to everyone and just trying to get in everyone's good books so I feel and receive the love that I so deeply yearn for, I'm more able to say no, that's not okay with me, put up a boundary, communicate why that isn't okay for me, and get on with my life. And in response to that, I'm more able to focus on what I value, and I'm actually more respected by my peers. Finally, this one pertains to my inner compass, my inner intuition. It's the lesson of following my curiosity. So instead of doing what I think I should do based on external expectations or culture, society, um, that in this case largely being the expectations or demands sometimes or commandments of the red pill, uh, thou shalt do this or thou shalt not do that. I began learning to follow my inner compass, follow what felt genuinely right for me, and following that has led to relationships and interactions which a few years ago I would have thought like they're not for me, but I'm actually learning they are for me. They're very enjoyable and meaningful, and I'm delivering unto other people beauty and joy, and I'm receiving that in myself, mostly because the interactions and engagements are authentic and genuinely satisfying for me. So that's a little taste of my 7 year or 8 year story. I hope you found it at least somewhat interesting, and I hope the lessons made you curious to learn more about me and the knowledge I have learned, have gained, the wisdom I have gained over these years, and potentially how I can help you too. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.